to the Hockey Huddle, the ultimate podcast for hockey fans by hockey fans, where we break down the latest on and off ice from power plays to game-changing trades. Whether you're a diehard fan or new to the sport, we've got all the action, analysis, and hot takes you'll need to stay in the game. We'll bring you exclusive interviews with other fans, weekly breakdowns, and everything you need to know from the NHL and beyond. So lace up your skates, grab your stick, and let's drop the puck on today's episode of the Hockey Huddle.
All right, guys, welcome back. Episode 2. You got Jason talking at you, aka Sandwiches, and we've got Rick on the other end there, live from the greater Calgary area. I know on the first episode we talked a little bit about the Tim Hortons app and how that's really made my family life closer with hockey. And one of the things that I wanted to do is you really touch on that app and what that does. So essentially, just so everybody knows who's never used it before, what happens is the app comes up and it's got 3 different drop-down screens. One is all you're doing is picking who's going to score a goal. No assists, no points, nothing else, just score a goal. So group 1 are the most likely guys to score goals. So like Austin Matthews, William Nylander, Ovechkin, these type of players. Then you have your group 2 as another drop-down menu. You pick a player there and number 3. So that's what I was talking about before. So how Alex, my wife, picks players is based on teams. So, for example, last year, the President's Trophy winners, the Rangers, she would look at the New York Rangers, and if they were playing, say, the Chicago Blackhawks, who finished last, she would then go through and pick 3 players based on that team. So now how the app works, if you get 1 right, you get 25 10 points, 2, you get 50, and 3 right, you get 100. So just so you know what that works out to be, if you get 400 points, that's a free coffee. If you get 7 days right in a row, you get free coffee for the week. So that's how our whole thing started. I have a little bit different way of how I go about picking my teams. One is it's similar to how she picks it. I look for the best scorers who are playing that night and also combine that with the teams they're playing. But the other thing that I do that kind of really messes everything up, and it just shows how much of a homer I am. If the Leafs are playing, I have to pick 3 Leafs. So in the past, that was great because for literally 252 straight games, the Leafs hadn't been shut out till since November 21st, 2021. Fast forward to game 1, Craig Berube's first game with the Leafs, and what happens? We're shut out. So if we want to segue in, and you can start this, Rick, about going into, we can talk about game 1, game 2, and game 3, however you want to do it.
So I also play the Tim Hortons hockey app because it's a ton of fun. I am looking at the app right now. I am 2 for 10, not including today. So I am not off to a great start. And if I look back at my picks, it's very Maple Leafs heavy until the 1-0 loss. At which point I flipped everything over and I've picked almost exclusively. I've picked Western teams. I got Josh Anderson in there for an Eastern team from yesterday. No go. But yesterday I picked McKinnon, Anderson, and Ian Cole. Nothing. Tonight I've picked McDavid, Sam Honzik, who's a rookie for the Calgary Flames, playing up on the top line, and Shane Wright. And good God, man, that kid needs to score a goal. So let's see what happens. I think my approach to the Tim Hortons hockey app is kind of the same as yours. Look at, who's playing who's the goalie in net. Are you playing against somebody like the Flyers who doesn't have a goalie? Or are you playing against like a, not such a great team like the Blackhawks, and just kind of go from there. So anyways, I love picking Leafs, and whenever Matthews is the option, how can you not pick Matthews? 69 goals last year, just crazy not to pick him, right? Or McDavid. How do you bet against McDavid when he's on the board? So I had a choice tonight, was McDavid or Draisaitl. I picked Connor McDusty.
Nice picks. By tonight, just because we're going over, my picks were Matt Duchene, Connor Brown, and Shane Wright. So we both had Shane Wright as well together.
Former Maple Leaf Connor Brown.
Well, there you go. Sometimes that kind of goes into it too.
Yeah. Well, hey, and you know what? Like, look how the Leafs are going. So, speaking of picking Leafs, and like real tough loss in that first game, 1-0, and you think of the firepower that team has, and just the sheer ability to put pucks in the net. And good God, they got blanked by the Montreal Canadiens. Tough too in their barn, and such a great rivalry. And I'm sure that played a big part of it. But yeah, hey, they kind of they've come back in the past 2 games. They've won a couple of games and they've looked good. But it's my biggest concern, and I was texting you this earlier. My biggest concern right now, where's Austin Matthews? This is 3 games, no points, no goals, no assists, nothing.
No, it's true. I mean, I don't know. I mean, if you look at the first game, the Leafs had what was it, like over 70 shots directed at the net, 48 actually on net. I think we went 0 for 4 on the power play. Montreal was 1 for 5, and that was the only goal they scored. One of the things that I look at that game is so much like the typical Toronto Maple Leaf playoff game. A lot of stuff from the outside, a lot of shots. It looks like a lot of things, but it was a whole bunch of nothing. We had to get to the dirty areas to kind of get in there and score those goals, and that just never happened in that game.
Yeah.
So it's almost like not until we got to the second game when we were playing against Sheldon Keefe, which I love Sheldon Keefe, by the way, great coach. And we were playing against the Devils where we kind of came out and we won that game 4-2. I mean, shots were equal. I think there were like 22 or 23 shots apiece, something like that. But we finally got the secondary scoring from Pacioretty, McMahon, Lawrence, and then your buddy JT chipped in.
How good has Lorenz looked too in the first couple of games? Like, what a good signing that is. A good add to the team, and like, what a like on the fourth line, like have that guy and his name's on the cup. Like, that's good. That's a good deal. It works for me.
Buddy, you know what? It's a great deal. And you and I both talked about Lorenz and Pacioretty making it in the first cast, and boom, looks like they did, right? So we must have known something. One really cool thing that I've noticed with Craig Berube is he really, I mean, we talk about players playing the minutes when they're on or when they're going, but that night in that second game, I was looking through some of the stats, and Lorenz, who's playing on the fourth line, he played over 15 minutes that game. And then if you look at two of the guys who were supposed to be on the third line or 2A, however you want to look at it, and Robertson and Pacioretty, Robertson played 10 minutes and Patch played 9:36, right? So
Hmm.
Berube is definitely that kind of guy, eh?
It's interesting that Robertson's not getting that much ice time in the Berube world either, because he looked pretty good in the preseason and he was putting some points on the board. So I wonder if it's just a trust thing where he doesn't trust him in the regular season right now.
Yeah, I think it might be because I was looking at that throughout, and his averages is that he did play them more in the third game against the Penguins. But yeah, so you can see in game one, game two, he didn't, but in game three, he started to play him more. It looks like he was going more. And something that kind of really jumped out at me actually in the game three is Oliver Ekman Larson. Wow, that guy, like in game
Yeah.
three, he played over 25 minutes, man. And the number two defenseman was McCabe at 24:10. Like, what's going on with our boy Riley and Tanev? Like, I thought those guys were 1-2, but he's playing McCabe in OEL for far more minutes.
I like that though. I like that the pressure's off Riley to be this good offensive puck moving defenseman and not have to worry about taking up 25, 28 minutes a night. And now he can move the puck and he can feed the big boys. And, what a great opportunity for him to shine a little bit, because how much pressure has he had for the past, 6 years where he's had to be the man, and that's it, just him.
No, it's true. And Berube changed his setup too, because what he did was, again, I was looking at some advanced stats. There's a lot of stats out there for anybody that wants to, just sink their life or lose their life in stats. But one of the ones I was just, which we've done once or twice, eh, Rick?
Oh yeah, so many times.
Oh my gosh. So one of the stats was Riley. He played 75% of his ice time or face-off ice time was in the offensive zone. Only 25% was in the defensive zone for
I
him
like
during so far in those first three games.
I like that though. Like I think that's a good place for him to be. Obviously, he's very offensive minded. He's a skilled offensive guy, but I think you need to look at Tanev, and Tanev, who's been, he's been a good homer defenseman. Like he's been that good defending defenseman. I don't know if that makes like what's the right pairing, because maybe the mismatch here, or the miss in the ice time is the pairing, and we need to have Riley partnered with somebody else.
Yeah, maybe you know what? A lot of times you don't know how a player plays until you see him in your uniform. And Oliver Ekman Larson, wow. Like, I'm very impressed
Yeah.
with this guy. He's playing really well. First pass out. The only bad thing that he did so far in the first three games was that breakaway where he came in stone hands and just didn't know what to do. I think he was more surprised than anything.
Also, what's up with the jersey number? Come on,
Yeah, 95. Like,
95.
where did he come up with that? Like,
I don't know. That doesn't make sense to me. I'm sure there's a whole plethora of other numbers to pick, and you wouldn't. It's got to be some significance, and we need to find out. I think that's one of those deep, advanced stats we need to go research and find out why the hell did he pick number 95.
Yeah, I don't know. I think that's a great idea. We'll have to do a deep dive into that. And the other thing that we definitely need to touch on, and I'm so excited about this, and this is one of the things that usually scares the bejeebus out of me, is goaltending. And I'm telling you, man, like game one, we let in one goal. Game two, 2 goals. Game three, 2 goals. Both goalies, Dennis Hildeby and Anthony Stolarz, are playing lights out. So good, so steady in the net. And I don't feel, when you feel that pressure when they're coming down the zone, and you kind of cringe and you close your eyes and you hope that they're not going to score. I don't feel that way this year. Do you?
I definitely feel nervous about not having Joseph Wall in the lineup and him being injured again. Like this guy's made of glass, and it is not like that. As a hardcore fan, man, that scares me. So one, Matthews is missing. Two, your starting goalie, the guy who looks fantastic. Joseph Wall, when he's healthy, looks great. He looks like he's I don't want to say elite goalie. He looks like he is a top tier goalie, not an elite. Like he's
Mhm.
not like a Shesterkin. He's not a um, you know, I don't know who else, an Ottinger or something like that. He's not that
Yeah.
tier, but he's definitely the tier below that. And but he's got a lot of place time to grow. But good God, man, like the guy, like he's got a sore toenail, an aching eyebrow, a sprained left armpit. I don't know what the hell's going on with this guy. Is he just super soft or, like what the hell's going on? Anyways, Hildebees look good. I love Stolarz. Like that's a good pickup, and I think this guy Stolarz could he pick up 30 games? And could he win his 65 to 75% of those games? Like that could be. Again, we're talking about secret sauce for the Leafs making the playoffs and beyond, beyond round one. Maybe Stolarz and Lorenz and Pacioretty. These are some good ads. Like OEL obviously is a huge improvement. Tanev is that big homer defenseman, that defensive defenseman. I don't know, man. There seems to be some magic there potentially if Joseph Wall can stay healthy.
I agree. And the thing is, I don't want, it's almost like once bitten, I don't know, 17 times shy. I don't want to trade a goalie. We
I
trade that
know.
goalie again, we're going to trade, the Tuukka Rask for, oh, I don't know, the next coming. So are we grooming Joseph Wall? He's going to come in and we're going to trade him because the other two goalies look great. And then he goes and he wins some other franchise, like a bunch of Stanley Cups, right? We just can't do that. We can't have that happen again.
Agreed. Can't have that happen.
Dangerous, dangerous, dangerous. And then there's some, as well as, the Leafs, it's kind of been weird. It's like, it's kind of been like growing and growing, growing. I believe that Matthews will show up against LA, tomorrow night. I think he's not worried about scoring. He's playing great. He's getting his shots on net. He's getting his chances. I think he's going to do really well. Where there's definitely some weird stuff. I like to call, like, I'm doing air quotes now, bizarro world stuff happening in the world with some different teams out there. Like there was a really, really smart guy on that first episode that said something about picking Calgary to make the playoffs. I don't know if you remember that,
I remember that very well. Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
but Calgary, I mean, they look like you and I were talking about it. Their three lines, their fourth line is a bunch of young guys, but they've mixed up those top three lines and they're responding. They put somebody responsible defensively and somebody with goal scoring. And one of another stat I was looking at is Huberdeau. He's got 25% of the goals they scored all of last year in the first 3 games.
Yeah. So Huberdeau against the Flyers of the night on Saturday was 2 goals, 2 assists, and all over the ice, and did not look like the minus 29 he was last year. This guy was up and down the ice. He was in the right zone. He was in the right position, and he wasn't like he reminds me of like John Tavares a couple years ago, where he was a sneaky 3 points. He'd go off for a goal and a couple apples, and you'd be like, "Holy, how did this guy have 3 points? Where was he all night?" Hubert was the
Mm-hmm.
same way, where he went off, he scored the goal, good goal, and then a couple apples and sets up a couple beautiful plays, and then comes in for that second one, 4 point night, beautiful thing. Dustin Wolf, this kid could be the number one prospect in the NHL. This guy looks like he is, again, I would say he's in that Joseph Wall category of goalie. Very good, very sound goalie, very strong reflexes, good hockey sense, but he did show his immaturity in that game. And a couple of times mishandled the puck and, got out of got out of the net and put himself in a spot where he was scrambling and it cost him a goal. And that's part of being a young goalie. I think the kid's 23 years old, so those things are going to happen. But that there definitely is that maturity that he needs to have. And speaking of Calgary, again, I sent you a text the other day saying, um, there's something that I really really appreciate in hockey players, and that is when they demonstrate a high amount of intelligence when they're playing the game. And one of the guys that I've maybe underestimated for the past few years is Mackenzie Weegar. Holy
Mm.
crap, is Mackenzie Weegar a star in this league? But he is an unsung star in this league. The guy is smart on both ends of the ice, defensively very intelligent. He plays the game, and you can tell that he is about positioning and putting his body in the right spot and his stick in the right spot and taking the right guy out of the play and moving the puck into the right area. He scored a beauty goal, receives a pass, bang, howitzer, scores a goal on the other end of the ice. He was, I think he was a +2 in the game. He could have been a +73, if we were keeping those kinds of stats. The guy stopped and prevented so many goals and setups for goals from happening just
Well, he's
from
one of those. Sorry, Rick. I was gonna say he's one of those players that when you're watching a game, when you're actually at the game, right? Because when you're at home,
mm,
you're forced to kind of see what the camera is and where everything's kind of going on. But Uyghur, I watched him with Florida when the Leafs played him. He's the kind of guy that I would follow myself and see what he was doing behind the scenes, where he was setting up. And I agree with you with your assessment with him that he is such a smart player. And the way that he goes through the motions in the game, unbelievable. And those are some of the things that, when you get to go see a game that you can enjoy more so than seeing just a regular game televised. I almost wish that they had, I don't know, say like 3 or 4 different camera angles that you could pick and choose and watch at the same time, almost like a split screen. I
that's a
think that
great
would be
idea.
something that would definitely drive more dollars in the pockets because that's something as a true fan, I would love to watch that. It would make me feel more that I'm at the game.
Yeah, that's a great idea. And it's funny you say that because at one point I was watching him and not the game. Like I'm watching what this guy is doing, and the puck's moving around the blue line, and he's taking guys and kind of angling them out of positions. And I was like, man, this guy's a smart guy. Um, yeah, anyways, hey, I'm in Calgary. I get to see a bunch of these games and I get to go to a bunch of the games. And, I definitely we'll talk about Calgary as we kind of go through the season here. Excited to see this kid, Sam Hanzik. He's a rookie. He was on the doorstep all night, banging away at the, rebounds and kind of in the dirty area. Connor Zary with a set of wheels on him. Anyways, Calgary's going to be fun to watch. They're off to a 3-0 start. And you know who else is off to a hot start? Is the Utah Hockey Club, which I hate saying, by the way. Good God, pick a
Oh, I
name
know.
already, would you please?
Well,
The
what
Utah,
name should we give them? Should we give them the Yetis? What are they going to be? What's their name going to be?
the Utah Flat States. I don't know who.
Maybe that's one of the things we can look for. We can look for a name for this team. But I agree. This is a team that you and I talked about in Arizona, and you kind of touched on it a bit. You said, them playing in the 5,000 people barn. There's not a lot of support. It seemed like no matter what they did, things were going right. They've got a ton of draft capital, a ton of draft picks, a lot of young players that are just starting to, become those Mitch Marners, those William Nylanders that we know in Toronto, right? And you can see it happening right before your eyes, man. Like it's sad that they had to leave Arizona, but obviously they didn't support the team or not sure exactly what happened down there. Probably too much for us to go over in one show. But yeah, Utah, I'm definitely impressed with that team and where they're going. I actually
Yeah,
picked them to make it too.
I think that's I don't think that's a bad pick, man. I think that's a good call. And like the way is it really a new rank in the fact that they've got an owner that cares about the team and all of a sudden, like, what's this kid, what's that, the kid scored 5 goals. What is his name? Dylan
Oh,
Gunther.
Gunther. Yeah,
What is going on with this guy? He's got 5 goals already. Logan Cooley's got 5 assists. Clayton Keller's got 6 assists. Like, what is going? And good God, like, so Alex Kerfoot, which I never really like. Hey, he was a good, seemed like a good player at the time, but not good enough to be on the Toronto Maple Leafs. But
right.
Alexander Kerfoot, he's been playing. He's been playing well. Like maybe playing above his station a little bit in Utah. Pressure's off. No media watching him. I don't know if Utah even know. Did anybody ever even know where Utah is? Like, do
No,
people
I
in
don't think
Utah know
so.
there's a hockey team there? It, and you know what? It's not just Utah that's off and running. I think you also like we got to move over to the east and talk about New Jersey and New Jersey, who's going. I don't want to say they're going gangbusters, but they are off to a really hot start. And was that a goaltender that made all the difference for them?
I think it is, but you know what's funny? It's funny that Sheldon Keefe is there right now
Yeah.
because the New Jersey Devils remind me of the Toronto Maple Leafs about 3 years ago. Lots of wheels, lots of speed, lots of east-west passing, possession game, smart players. But I'm afraid of when they get to the playoffs, are they going to have what it takes to do what needs to happen? I no doubt they're going to get there, but what are they going to do once they're there, right? And I think Toronto's evolved and taken the stuff that they learned as being an early like New Jersey type of team. That's the only thing that I'm looking at in New Jersey. One, you're right with the goalie. Goalie's making a huge difference. They feel more confident team in front of them. Dougie Hamilton is going to be there hopefully for the whole year for them because you never want to see a player go down. He's their big stud defenseman. And then goals, my gosh, they've got so much talent, so much speed there. That team's going to be a handful, but we'll see what happens when it comes to the playoffs.
So there's a guy on the Devils named Paul Cotter, and he played for Vegas.
Mm-hmm.
First 3 years of his career. Um, Played 55 games in 22. Played 76 games in 23. He scored 7 goals in the 23-24 season. In the 24-25 season, he scored 4 goals. So in five
Wow.
games, he's at 4 goals. Last year in Vegas, 76 games, 7 goals. And I think this is just again, if there's an opportunity for this guy, and he is another one of those. And I don't want to sing this song too early, but there could be something here with this guy. Like, could this guy be a 30-goal scorer this year? Could a 24-year-old from the fourth round out of Vegas be be the next 30-goal scorer? Could he be the difference maker for the Devils, along with obviously having an elite goalie in their team?
He could. He definitely stood out with me as well, especially in those first two games, the Buffalo games, and yeah, he impressed me as well. And he's an up and comer. It could be a lot of times, when you get a player that like you kind of alluded to it, that just doesn't get the ice time. So therefore, if they're not getting the ice time or playing with the right guys, they're kind of always that fourth kind of checker kind of role or penalty killer guy. And he was kind of stuck in that role in Vegas. And now that he's playing in a much more offensive kind of team atmosphere, he's definitely showing that he definitely deserves to be there.
Yeah, I agree. He definitely deserves to be there. And some other teams that deserve to be there right now and that are not. What's happening with Edmonton? Edmonton
Wow,
is 0 for 3. Where are the big boys, especially after a finals run, starting 0 and 3, and they did not finish the preseason well either. Like I think they lost. So I watched a couple of games against Calgary. Their preseason was also not good.
yeah, it didn't look good at all. And you know, I don't know. It's kind of like Edmonton. It's hard for me to root for them because it's almost like they steal all of our castaways from the Leafs a lot. You know what I mean? Like that code, like what, why did they think that Cody Ceci would be a good idea, right? What, like Connor Brown, good little player and stuff like that. Zach Hyman for sure, a great pickup. And they've had a lot of those players there. I'm not sure if you just kind of like touching on Edmonton. Did you see that show, on Prime called, I think it was called Face Off?
I absolutely have seen Face Off. Yes.
So it's beautiful. And then one of the things that was in there was when they lost, I think it was there's 6 episodes, and in the sixth episode, they kind of got all their heads down and they're shaking their heads and, rightfully so. But, somebody who stood up as a leader in that moment, and I, not that I was surprised, I was pleasantly surprised. Let's go with that. Was Zach Hyman, and he says, you know what, guys, this feels like shit. This is the worst we're ever gonna feel. This is terrible. I can't believe this has happened. But he goes, guys, you know what? We're going to be back, and we're going to be back next year. And he stood right up there when everybody else's head was down, and his head was held high. And the only other thing that he could have maybe said at that time is never forget how you feel, because you never want to feel this way again.
I love that line. Love that. And that is a, you know, the movie Moneyball where he says, I hate losing more than I love winning. And it
Yes,
is,
yes.
that is it. Like, that is just like, I've been there. I've lost championship games playing hockey and sat in the locker room, and the arena staff comes by and they're like, dude, you need to get out. Like, quit sitting in this room sulking, get in your car and go. Like, man, that is just feels like you just got kicked square in the, well, you can take a guess where
Oh,
you
yeah,
got
yeah, yeah.
kicked.
Yeah. No,
Just a
big time.
tough, man, tough feeling. And if you're a competitor, if you're a sports fan, and if you're competitive about things, that just sucks. That's the worst feeling in the world.
Oh, man, it's terrible. But like I said, to talk about him like that with his leadership skills, Zach Hyman, way to go, man. Step right up. Made me feel proud.
5 stars. Good for him. Good.
Five
Like,
stars, man.
yeah, I agree. Hey, and another team that should have been in the, should have been talking about, or should have made a run, or should have been on a better, making a better performance, I
Trajectory.
guess.
Yeah.
Colorado Avalanche. What is
Yeah,
going
I don't.
on? Edmonton and Colorado are 0 for to start the season. And we're talking about arguably two of the top five hockey players, three of the top five hockey players in the world right now: Connor McDavid, Leon Draisaitl, and McKinnon. Where is
It's
Nathan
like,
McKinnon right now?
yeah, I don't know, man. Like, Colorado reminds me of Las Vegas. They could play all season and they might just not even make the playoffs. You know what I mean? Like, they've got a good enough team, but it's almost like they're so top heavy with certain players. And like Vegas that one year, like, right after making going all the way to the finals, they didn't even make the playoffs the next year. Colorado's starting to remind me of that. And they keep talking about Gabriel Landeskog, and he came out and did a press conference at the end of last year, so he's coming back, but he's still not back. You know what I mean? He said in the press conference, he goes, so when you coming back? He goes, possibly October, January, or April. I'm not sure which one. But it's just one of those things that they need that guy's leadership back in the room. They need their captain back in Colorado. It seems like I don't know who's leading that team. You know what I mean? Like, who, besides McKinnon? McKinnon, I think, is a guy that leads by example, but he's not necessarily that raw guy. And I don't know who it is on that team, and I think that's a problem.
Yeah, I think it's definitely Landeskog, and there's a quote from Landeskog where he says that he identifies as the captain of the Colorado Avalanche, and that's who he is. That's his being. And I thought that was
Hmm.
a pretty fascinating quote as well. Just to, you know, without that, he feels, what is he feeling like? So I know there's a huge desire for him to get back, and it's a tough injury. And, it sounds like he's not going to come back and ever be 100% again. He's going to have to come back and deal with whatever he's got going on, and he's going to have to play with some discomfort or pain, or he's going to have to play with some aches, and he's going to have to go through load management of some type, where they're going to have to, if it's a back-to-back game, maybe he's not playing that back-to-back game, maybe he plays one but he doesn't play the other, and until the playoffs come around, or maybe he's on the LTIR magic show, and they're going to keep him kind of in the background at hockey camp, and he's going to show up in the playoffs, kind of like Jack Eichel that did that a couple of years ago. And hey,
Yeah, and Mark
they're gonna
Stone. Yep.
yeah they're going to go on a run. So who knows? But anyways,
Yeah.
hey, I'm just thinking about Edmonton and Colorado and these two huge teams. Now we're only 3 games into the season, so hey, a couple weeks from now we might be saying, oh, look at Edmonton and Colorado going on a tear, but they are not sitting in the standings where they should be. But
No, not at all. And I listened to that coach that took over in Edmonton. He was talking about he's no dummy, because he said he's going to have the two big boys on the same line until he gets that team going, because they've only scored in Edmonton only 3 goals
Uh,
over the 3 games, right? So he's going to put Draisaitl and Connor McDavid and maybe Hyman on that line and just roll them until they can kind of get out there and make that change that needs to happen.
do you have Edmonton in the playoffs this year in the West?
I do have them in the playoffs in the West. If you want to go over so I looked at Edmonton. Edmonton is going to make the playoffs. They added Victor Arvidsson and Jeff Skinner, so they added goal scoring. Weird. And they got
Mhm.
rid of Broberg. Cody Ceci surprised me pleasantly when I watched them play, but still, every time that guy touches the puck, just scares me. Sorry, Cody. And Holloway. So those are 3 more defensive-minded guys are out, and they added 2 other guys who are more, I would say, more offensive. So I'm not sure what they were thinking. You know what I mean? Like, I
Yeah,
think it was
Broberg's.
Edmonton.
You bring up Broberg, he's going to be a star. Like this guy's going to be a top 4D easy, potentially a top 2D in a couple of years on a lot of teams. Like this guy's got a real bright future ahead of him.
Yeah, why wouldn't they have signed or matched that deal? That makes no sense.
Yeah, they got offer sheeted, and why the hell would you not sign that? Like, why would you not match that offer sheet? It makes no sense to me. It does not compute, especially on a team where you're so heavy on scoring and you need big banging bodies on the boards, and you need good, strong defensemen. And this kid definitely shows all signs of that. Unless they know something that we don't. I thought I was, pretty in tune with all the boys in the Edmonton team. I should call some of them, I guess.
That's a good idea, buddy. But I think Edmonton, I think they're going to make it, but I don't think they're not going to win the cup. They're not like everybody's calling that they're the number 1 team. They're going to win the cup. I think they took a step back unless they do something at trade deadline to address the defensive woes that they had before. They're going to suffer from the same affliction, the same problem, I believe. Who else
Well,
do you
if
have
you,
in the West? Sorry, go ahead.
yes, so in the West, I've got Dallas in, I've
Yep.
got Colorado in, I've got Winnipeg in. I've got
Okay.
Calgary in. I've
There you
got
go.
Vancouver in. I've got Edmonton in. I realize that's 3 big Canadian teams there.
Yep.
And I've got a big old question mark around Nashville and Minnesota. Could Nashville do something this year? Could Nashville push in the playoffs? They're not off to a good start this year. Could Minnesota do something? Minnesota, it looks okay. Could they make a push in the playoffs this year? I've got Chicago out, St. Louis out, Utah out. I've got Seattle out, San Jose out, Anaheim out.
So I've got in the West, I've got Edmonton making it, Colorado making it, and my notes were for Colorado were meh, because
Yep.
they signed Oliver Shellington, who spells his name with a K, so it blows my mind every time I see it. From Calgary, he was a good defenseman, so that was an okay thing, but that's really all they did. Dallas got really, like, they lost Tanev and Hakanpää to a really great team,
Really great team.
and then right, then they signed 2 players that were one was a has-been Leaf twice in Lyubushkin, and Matt Dumba. We tried to sign him, but for whatever reason he didn't sign. So those are the 2 defensemen that they were replacing with those 2. So that's definitely a downgrade. And something, we should definitely look at is Pavelski finally retired at age 49,302 years old. And I think that's a huge hit for Dallas, man. So again, Dallas is going to I think they're going to make the playoffs, but they've taken a step back as well. And you talked a little bit about Nashville. Now they did add Stamkos. He's a little long in the tooth. And Marchessault from Vegas, 2 good ads. And then they got rid of, who was the defenseman that Tampa Bay had to dump for salary to Nashville to pay the bills. And he actually went back to Tampa Bay this year. His name escapes me. We'll come back to that. But they added in Brady Shea to replace him. McDonough. That's it. McDonough.
Ryan McDonough. Yep.
Yeah. So, I mean, Nashville, I think, got better. So I think they're going to make it and they'll do better. Like last year, they kind of limped over the finish line to kind of make it after they were told that they were bad boys and they couldn't go see U2 in Vegas. They were grounded. You guys are grounded. Go to your bedroom, right? And that kind of shook them up, which is okay. And have Ryan O'Reilly. I like Ryan O'Reilly. but he's your number one center when he was the third center or the third option for the Leafs. Again, that just makes me question that whole overall team.
Yeah, and they've added Matt Murray to the team as well, and like I don't know, is he the backup to Tharos, or what does that look like for them? Honestly, I like Nashville in the playoffs. I think they've got like some good ads. The problem is that it is just this year. That's really all they get. So by adding Stamkos, I think am I wrong in saying that you only really get this year of Stamkos? Maybe next year, like he's getting to the point where he's kind of long in the tooth, and is Marchessault is kind of the same thing as Marchessault. Do you
Mm-hmm.
get 1 year out of him, or do they? He's 33 years old, but he's kind of on the back nine right now.
Yeah,
Um, can they support Philip Forsberg? Can they make Forsberg better? Can they keep the puck further away from Saros? Saros is a good goalie. Like can you keep him? Can you get a few less shots on him and keep the puck in the other end of the ice more often? And I don't know, man. Hey,
yeah,
it'd be interesting to see. It'd be exciting to watch and see what they do.
yeah, good question. And then when you talk about Vegas, I have them making the playoffs, but it's a
Ah,
question mark. It's either Vegas is in or Winnipeg is in. So it's either Vegas or Winnipeg. It's a coin flip because Vegas really they lost a lot of bodies, man. They lost Marchessault, Chandler Stevenson, Anthony Manta, Alex Martinez, Logan Thompson, the goalie. Like they lost a whole ton of guys, right? And what did they add? They added, I think, Amadio, a guy who played on the fourth line for us at one point, and Will Carrier, I think, is who they added. So like huge step back for Vegas in the West. And
yeah.
then you touch.
Yeah,
So I
you
mean, like, what are they going to do? Like, I think they could make it, but again, their point total. Say last year they had 95 points, and then this year then they'll have like 85 points. Right? I mean, a big step back for them.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one. And hey, Mantha's been in Calgary. I've been watching him play a little bit. He had a Gordie Howe hat trick the other night. He's looked good. Like he's been mixing it out. Like, and I didn't always have Mantha pegged as a tough guy or as a fighter, but he's been in the dirty areas and he's been causing some havoc, and he's been taking no crap from anybody else, which has been really good. Speaking of, and this is okay, so I got two off-topic things, and we'll get back to
Okay.
playoff talk. So first one is you were talking about a funny spelling of a name. You remember Carl Pilash,
Oh yeah, Pilash. Yeah.
Pilash, right? So you had to say his name, Carl Pilash, because the R was you pronounced it as a sh. But why didn't you pronounce the R in the first name? Why wasn't it Cashel Pilash instead of Carl Pilash? That never made sense to me. I don't understand.
I agree with you. It should have been that.
I have a friend. I have a friend named Carl who will now be called Cashel for the rest of his life.
Cashel, I love it. Is
Cashel.
he out in Calgary?
Mhm.
Cashel?
It is, yes. Yeah, he's out in Calgary. He lives 2 doors
That's
down from
okay.
me. He's a ridiculous hockey fan. Cheers for St. Louis. I don't know what's wrong with him.
Yeah, he was dropped as a child. Obviously, that's fine.
Clearly, something's wrong with this guy. And
Obviously,
and the second thing I want to talk to you about was extremely important, and I've forgotten to tell. I remember what it was. So we'll just continue on with our playoff talk.
there you go. That will definitely come back to us. Vancouver, good ad with Jake DeBrusk.
Yeah.
Danton Heinen, another good ad, and Vinny Desharnais. So I think Vancouver got stronger. I think they're going to do a little bit better. But again, you and I question their goaltending with Demko not there. They got this kid who played fairly well from last year, but I mean, he's not the stud that Demko is. So for them to kind of go forward in the playoffs, I think, or to make a run, they're going to need Demko back.
And they've got to get past teams like Los Angeles. So you think of not having Demko in your lineup and being able to put the brakes on a team like LA, who's again they don't have the youngest roster in the league, but they've got some guys in that team. So they've got these guys like Kevin Fiala. So Fiala's 28 years old, kind of coming into his own. He's going to score a lot of goals, and if you got a division rival who's just going to pump your net full of goals, like that's the spot where he's going to do it. Byfield, another guy, big right winger for LA. Is he going to fill the net against teams when their goalies aren't sharp? So Sheloff is good. He showed himself up in the playoffs last year, and he definitely stepped up. But he's not Demko, and you got to get past some of these big boys and some of these big teams where obviously Kopitar is getting kind of old, but you got to deal with, you know, the standings, and you have to manage the LA Kings. You got to manage, you know, Edmonton Oilers. You got to manage maybe not so much Seattle, but those are teams that you've got to be able to bury and put behind you.
No, Troy, I totally agree. And speaking about LA, oh my gosh, one of the most boring games I've ever seen all season long was LA versus Boston. They're both terrible. I'm like, what are you guys doing? It was it was so bad, man. Like I was gonna go and watch soccer. It was way better.
Oh,
I saw
wow.
some kid down the block. They're playing soccer. I was gonna go watch that instead. It was terrible. It finally went to overtime, and Boston ended up winning it 2-1. But oh my God, what a terrible game! I digress, but I'll go into the last two that I want in the West, and then we can go to the East if you want, or we can we can sum it up and then kind of go from there. So I do have Calgary making it, even though they don't have Markstrom, they do have that stud Wolf that you talked about, and you've seen him firsthand. And they also got rid of Andrew Mangiapane, but they did pick up Lomberg, so a little more toughness. Anthony Manta that we talked about. Tyson Berry, have you seen him play at all this year, Rick?
Yeah, saw him play in the preseason. The guy's definitely a step behind. He did not play on the opening night. He didn't play in the home opener, which is probably the right thing to do because he looks a little out of place. So I don't know if he's just got some rink rust or what it is, but I don't know about him, man.
Okay. I think as a power play specialist, he's going to do well for them, but that's why I picked Calgary. If they can make everything, like everything went wrong for them like 2 seasons ago where I think they lost like it was like 21 goal games. It was like terrible, right? And then everything imploded where everybody wanted to leave Calgary. Now it looks like they got guys that want to stay there. They want to be there. You know, the fans in Calgary are great fans. And you know, they really support their team. So it's kind of a mystery to me why people don't want to stay in Calgary. Like, if you don't like the weather, wait 5 minutes, right? It's going to change. But it's a beautiful place. It's got the mountains. Well, you know, Rick, mountains, beautiful lakes. It's a beautiful place to live. So why would you not want to be in Calgary if you're a hockey player?
Yeah, beautiful place to be. Lots of young talent on the team, and they had 3 picks in the top 45 in the last draft. They've got a high prospect in Zane Parekh, pick number 9. The guy's definitely going to play in the show. A lot of young guys on the team today, so they've got guys who were first round picks or high picks for them that are currently in the lineup. They just sent a kid down. But the future looks good, especially with a young goalie, some young forwards, and they've got guys like Rasmussen and Huberdeau, the guys like that are going to kind of lead the way and be those veteran leaders to get these guys ready to play in the NHL. Um, Good looking team. Again, I'll give you updates throughout the entire season. They've been fun to watch so far. A very surprising 3-0, but they've looked like they earned every one of those wins.
It's beautiful. I like it. And the last team I have in the West is actually Utah, the Utah Hockey Club. I'm going to coin them the Yetis because I think that's where they're going to go because it just makes sense. It's a cool name for them. And where Utah was kind of having some issues, was, well, they got rid of Jacob Chikrin, who's a defenseman, which I don't know why they got rid of him. But anyways, another whole show. But they picked up Sergachev, Ian Cole, and Marino, right? So they picked up some good defensive help, which is exactly what they needed. So they have the young forwards that can score with the tenacity and the umph. And plus now they got the defense. That's why I'm picking Utah to make it. So Utah and Calgary are kind of my sleeper picks. I've
Nice.
got Vancouver, Vegas, Edmonton, Colorado, Dallas, and Nashville.
Cool. And what do you think about the
Cool.
East? Who you got? Who do you got in? Who do you got out?
All right. So if we move to the East, you know, it's one of those things. I never want to just always pick who who everybody else picks, right? I kind of always kind of like to throw something a little bit different in there, and that's why I kind of was thoughtful with the West. But if I look at the East, what I'll do is I'll list the teams who I think are going to make it, and then we can kind of touch on it. So I've got Toronto, Florida, and Ottawa. I have the Rangers, New Jersey, Carolina, and I have making the last two spots. I have Philadelphia and Boston.
Okay, so you and I have very similar looks at the East right now. So I also have Jersey, Rangers, and Carolina. I also have Toronto, Florida, and Boston. And I think this might be the year that Tampa's out.
I agree with you. I think they're out this year, man, because I've been watching Vasilevsky. He's been sliding. He's getting slow. He can't see that puck. He can't follow the puck anymore. If you take a shot and a screenshot, you got to be able to track that puck. And he's, for whatever reason, I don't know, maybe he needs glasses, but he's been terrible. And then you just really bad. And then you get rid of, their heart and soul, that whole team. Their whole team is Stamkos. What are you even doing getting rid of Stamkos? Like this guy was the straw that stirs that drink, man. And then you got Sergachev full of piss and vinegar, so good. And they picked up Tanner Jeannot. They gave away 5 draft picks for this guy. And then they said, you know what? Just kidding. We'll take 2 back from him and get rid of him to LA.
That doesn't make any sense at all. None.
No, it's what's the formula for success there? And they're paying what they do. They signed their big stud defenseman. Oh my gosh,
Victor Hedman.
yeah, Victor Hedman, and he's slowed down by at least 25%. And wow, like it's crazy, man. Like when you saw Chara back in the day, you see him, all of a sudden Chara's going great, 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 and then he turned 41, and then boom, just fell off a cliff. That's what I see with Hedman, man. So that team's slowly disappearing. In the last 2 to 3 years, they barely made the playoffs.
And it's not like Hedman's super old, but it's a young NHL. It's a young, fast NHL. And at 33 years old and 6'7" or 6'10" or 7'3", however tall he is, whatever that is, he's not keeping up with these guys. And that it kind of makes me, I kind of think of Boston, where Boston's got this huge, tall defense core, but that's not going to equate success necessarily. Like, yeah, you want to have big, tough defensemen, but they're going to get burned. They're going to get burned by these fast skill guys. And there's so many more guys in the league today that are fast and speedy and high skill and so maneuverable that big defenseman, I don't know, unless you're fast on your feet, that may not be a good thing for a team.
Yeah, I agree. And the referees, believe it or not, are starting to call it. Back in the day, if you were a person who was playing in the league for a long, long time, you were getting the benefit of the doubt. They're starting to even that out now. So Hedman's not getting all those calls that he used to get. So it's about time.
Yeah, I agree. He's definitely one of those guys where, there was definitely the hometown favor on that one. Hey, just as we're recording, it's Tuesday. It's in Calgary. It's 7:42. End of the first period. It's 1-1 Calgary and Chicago right now.
Nice. Who scored? Did Bedard score?
I didn't see who scored. I'm trying to figure that out right now while we're talking. But you
All right.
talk about something else while I look.
All right, cool. So let's talk about Toronto because why not? So I think that they're going to win the East. I think Toronto, I mean, with the additions, Craig Berube, a new voice in the room, more structure. They already have the run and gun when they need to do it, but they need more structure in the PK. Believe it or not, in the power play and overall systems, that's huge. Bringing in Tanev, like, wow, he's the defenseman that we've wanted to get for a long, long time. Um, Oliver Ekman-Larsson is surprising me how good this guy's been playing. Fantastic. Stolarz, he's the main reason why Florida made the playoffs last year. So when they stumbled down the home run at the end there back in April this year, they're not going to have someone to save their bacon. Mr. Lorenz there, another pickup from Florida, great pickup. And Yanni Hakanpää, like I love this guy just for his name. We would every time he would say his name on the TV, we would just laugh. What a great name, Yanni Hakanpää. And then the other guy, a good friend of mine, he'll come on as a guest speaker sometimes. He loved Bertuzzi, and he was singing his praises and how amazing he was. And I'm like, dude, he's got 6 goals and it's been 4.5 months. What's going on with this guy? So, and he's the only guy that ended up leaving. So overall, I think the Leafs identified their defensive woes and they've solidified the goaltending. And with the new coach, I believe that they're going to be winners.
I need to add something
Four,
here.
yeah, go
I
ahead.
I need to add something. They need to get Tavares and Domi off the same line. Max
Oh,
Domi needs to lead the second line. Tavares needs to be the third line center. What are we doing? What is the? I realize that you're paying Tavares $100 billion to be a third line centerman. Get him off the second line. Get him into the third spot. Get him into the PK. Get him in the ozone faceoffs. Get him
yep.
into all those areas where he's great. Good God, get him off of that second scoring line and get somebody like Robertson, Nylander, and Domi together and just
I
have them
agree.
fill the back of that net.
I totally agree. You got two guys that do nothing but shoot in Nylander, Robertson, and Domi. I don't think he can shoot directly at the net ever.
And no, he cannot.
He's like that. I don't know if you've ever played that old sport, board and ball, where there's no forward passes. Well, Domi's playing board and ball on the ice. There's no forward shots for this guy. He never shoots it at the net, man. Like a lot of times we're just screaming, shoot, shoot, shoot. He has Marner's disease from like 3 years ago. Like he
Oh
would
yeah,
not shoot it. But
yeah. It's
like I,
but the
I
guy
agree with you 100%.
he should be leading that second line, and he should be feeding the puck to Nylander. And when Nylander can't score, Robertson can come in and clean up the garbage, or you break Robertson loose because the guy's got wheels and hands for days. Like the guy's got a ton of skill. Yeah, he's a bit of a defensive liability, but you also short up the defense. So you make sure you
Yeah,
get the
no,
right deep pair on with him, and away you
yeah,
go.
I agree, buddy. And if it's not Robertson, McMahon up there with him. That's got to be that second line. It's got to be McMahon, Nylander, and Domi, or sub in Robertson, McMahon. They can go in and out however you want it.
I like that as an option too. McMahon up there too, McMahon is again highly skilled. I kind of like that size a little better in that second line too.
Mm-hmm. He's a big shooter, great shot. He'll go in the corner. So will Domi and Nylander. I think that's a really good second line. And then Robertson. I just feel bad for Robertson though. You know what I mean? Like the kid's trying so hard. So in the third line, he seems to only be getting 10 minutes a night. So that's the thing. Maybe he's not a fit for our team. Maybe we trade him maybe we can get a first or a second round for this kid.
Let me talk about my weekly installment of how horrible our depth is in prospects. We have no prospect depth. Oh my God. We need prospect depth. Trade Kampf and Yarncroc for some draft picks. And
Yeah.
I'm okay with moving Robertson. I'm okay with that because your top two lines would be solid if you move McMahon and Domi and Nylander together. You got Nyes, Matthews, and Marner together. Nyes, Matthew, Marner as a line is one of the greatest lines in hockey today. But good God, we need some assets in the pipeline. We do not have and there's good young guys. There's Fraser Minton Fraser Minton and Easton Cowan and some of these guys are fantastic, but there's nothing else. The cupboards are
I
bare.
agree. I agree. We got to get out there and trade some of these guys that are kind of just sitting there that are third, fourth line people. Get rid of them and let's get some potential. I'm with you. What do you think?
Uh,
What do you think about Florida this year?
well, I think Florida's got a real shot. Do you know? Here's a funny stat. Do you know what percentage of the salary cap Florida spends on the goalie?
I have no idea. Tell me.
I would never have guessed this number in a million years. 16% of their salary cap is on
Wow.
their goalies. Now, I say
Wow.
goalies. That is the percentage of the breakdown when you look at salary cap. The only team that spends more money on goalies, and you'll never guess the team, I don't think. Take a guess on the team that spends more money as a percentage on their goalies.
Montreal.
Montreal Canadiens.
Yep.
17% of their salary cap is spent on their goalies.
Look at me.
Look at you go.
Well,
Islanders
that's
and
because
Bruins.
Carey Price gets paid 10 million, well, 10.5 a year. So that's why I was thinking it would have had to been Montreal.
How crazy is it that they're spending that much money? So the Stanley Cup winning team spent 16% of their salary on goalies.
On
The
goalie.
runner-up, the Edmonton Oilers, what percentage do you think they spent on their goalies?
I would say 5%.
4%.
And that's because, Jack Campbell, I love Jack Campbell. And, I feel bad for him what he's going through right now. But they had Campbell as their start at 5 million. And they said, what's his name? Skinner.
Skinner.
Let's pay you some money. They're paying him 3.5 as their backup because they were afraid, so they were paying $8.5 million to these two guys. Now Campbell's obviously not there anymore, and they got Skinner that's there, but he's kind of like he's hit or miss, right? He's like the girl with the curl. He's either really really good or he's rotten.
So let's continue playing this game here. So what teams spend the highest percentage of their salary cap on forwards?
I would say Toronto.
Yeah, they're tied for first. Washington
With
Capitals and Toronto Maple Leafs spend 72% of their salary cap on forwards.
wow, that's crazy.
Crazy. But look at the forwards they've got. And now that number's going to drop off because you got Tavares dropping off next year. I hope
Yeah,
he resigns. I hope he gets a hometown discount or he gives us a hometown discount. I'd love to see him on the third line. I'd love him to stay in Toronto. Love the guy. Obviously, JT and I are best friends, hanging out at
yeah,
concerts and taking pictures together. You know how we hang out. Um,
totally.
and then you've got Marner, and that's a big question, right? Like, what's Marner going to do? Marner's got this year left in his contract, and is he going to command 12.5 million next year? Command
I
13
think
million
so.
next year? Is he going to be? And is Toronto going to? Are they going to open up the checkbook? Are they going to trade the Tavares contract for a Marner contract?
I think they do. I think they signed Marner at 12.5 for 8 years. And I think that Johnny T comes in. I think we talked about around in between 4 and 5 million. So really that means that say he comes in at 4, that gives us 7. So that'll give us like an additional $5.5 million to spend on another player because we pay Mitchie 12.5 and him 4. We can sign another defenseman if we want to, or another second line player.
Or we could trade Yarncroc and Kampf and get some draft picks because we have the 21st worst prospect depth in the NHL. Just saying.
I love it. You're right. Let's do it.
Hmm.
So if we go to Florida, like, oh my gosh, Florida reminds me. Remember when the Chicago Blackhawks were winning everything, and no matter who they had, they were such great players, and everybody wanted their players.
Yep.
What that happened to Florida last year. So Florida lost Montour, Oliver Ekman-Larsson, Stolars, Tarasenko, Lomberg, Stenlund, Lorance. Like they've lost a ton of people, and they replaced them with Tomas Nozick, who I think the Leafs had for a cup of coffee, New Jersey had for a cup of coffee, Boston had this guy's been everywhere on their fourth line, not a big deal. Uh, they picked up the backup goalie, what's his name, Chris Dreiger, I think his name is.
Yep.
I'm butchering his name, and Nate Schmidt and Jesper Boquist. Like I have no idea how these guys think that they're going to be repeat Stanley Cup champions. Like they won, I think they might be one and done, man. Like
Who'd they
great
replace though?
run.
Who'd they lose and who'd they replace in terms of like in the grand scheme of things? Did they lose anybody of any kind of significance though?
Well, their
You didn't.
defense in
You didn't lose
Montour
Sam
and
Bennett. You didn't lose Barkov. You didn't lose Aaron Ekblad. You didn't use Matthew Tkachuk. You still have these big, like you have the horses that got them into the finals and into the into the on like through the cup to win the cup, and these guys are still there.
yeah, no, that's true, buddy. That's true. It just seems like they took such a loss. Like Montour, like 2 years ago was their number one defenseman.
Yep.
Last year, arguably, maybe their number two. Oliver Ekman-Larsson was maybe a 4 or 5 for them, but he was a good player. And the goalie that got him into the playoffs is really what I'm looking at in Stolars. That was huge. Sure, they lost their fourth line and a little bit of their third line, and that can be replaced, and it usually is. But that's why I picked them to make the playoffs. But I'm still a little bit shocked, and it kind of sucks in this era when you have the salary cap that you can't maintain all those players that you've drafted and traded for.
So let's make a bold prediction then.
Well,
Who's
I know.
your
I think they're.
who's your cup final?
Oh, buddy. If you ask me at this time of year, always it's Toronto. It's Toronto
Hmm.
versus someone. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So it's so difficult to say. I think that really in the East, it could be the Rangers, New Jersey, or Toronto. You know what I mean?
Yep.
In the
Yep.
in the West, like maybe Dallas. Like the West has gone down so much that
So
it's
I
very
definitely
difficult.
see if I were to pick the East right now, I would say Toronto and New Jersey for the Eastern Conference Final. And that's
Yeah,
a big departure from where Toronto's been in the past. But they've added so many of the right pieces this year in winners and people who know how to win. Oliver Ekman-Larsson, Max Pacioretty, some of these guys that know what to do. And in the
right.
West, I think Edmonton really didn't change. I think Edmonton still has a secret sauce, and even though they're off to a terrible start at 0-3, I think it's got to be like an Edmonton. And I don't want to like again. It's so early in the season, but I kind of see like an Edmonton Dallas Western Final.
Yeah, I could see that as well. You can see Dallas and Edmonton on that side. Vancouver maybe too as a sneaker pick, possibly.
Oh,
If
okay.
their goalie gets if Demko comes back, I think that they would be a sleeper pick for me in the West.
See, Pedersen had a problem in Vancouver though in the playoffs, like Toronto does, where the big boys he just didn't show up. Like he was hurting, something was ailing him, whatever it was. He was not the that elite forward that Elias Pedersen is.
Yeah,
But if you look at who they've got, Brock Besser, Quinn Hughes, like you said, they added a good player in Jake DeBrusk. They've got some great pieces on that team, and hey, who knows? Thatcher Demko comes back, he gets healthy. Is that the difference maker?
I think it could be, buddy. And you got to put them on the line, yeah, like you said with DeBrusque or somebody that can be out there with them to help support them, right? Because people just take advantage of that guy. They push him around, so you need somebody to stand up with him for sure. And
So
if
go ahead.
I was just going to wrap out who I had in the East kind of thing, and then we can go from there. We both have Toronto, got Florida, the Rangers. Rangers stayed the same, except for they added Riley Smith. Other than that, they're the exact same.
Yeah,
Um, Boston lost to Brusque and Allmark. They picked up Corpusalo. He's no Allmark, but okay. But they picked up Lindholm and Zadorov, so that's why I'm picking them to make it. Again, their scoring is down. Like DeBrusque, like they didn't really replace scoring, and that's going to be a problem or an issue with Boston unless they play LA all the time. Then who cares? They can win 2-1.
Mhm.
New Jersey, so buddy, it was so bad. Go and watch that game. It was so bad.
I watched
Then
the
you
game.
got
I watched it when it was on TV. It's the only game that I could get on that
I
day.
know, me too. I'm like, what the heck? It was terrible.
I was actually
Um,
watching it. I think I was in the garage when I was watching it, and I was doing something else, and I'm like, "What is going on?" Like, and it was just, so. One of the kids was with me, and it was the game was happening between the blue lines, and I'm like, "What is going on right now?" All they're doing is in between the blue lines. There's nothing
yep.
else happening. They're not getting into either. Oh, it was terrible, terrible game.
It was, I agree. So bad, so bad. I got New Jersey making it obviously because of the changes. They One of their defensemen they brought in, Brandon Dillon. This guy is mean as all get out, man. This guy would punch his own mother if it meant he got an extra scoop of ice cream. He is terrible. And he's great if he's on your team. So they got some toughness back there. Dougie Hamilton strong. They got Markstrom and a new coach, new lease on life. I think they're going to do really, really well, really well. Carolina, man, what did these guys do? They're sort of they didn't sign Gensel. Uh, they got rid of Brett Pesci. They did pick up Jack Roslovic. Where did he come from? He was in Winnipeg, was he not?
I think so. Yeah.
And then Teravainen, like their two top scorers are gone. And they traded Bunting to get Jake Gensel. Not that Bunting was going to score a ton, but he'd score you 20. And then what they did was they replaced him with the old Philadelphia guard that nobody wanted. These guys, Sean Walker and Shane Gottsesbear. You know what I mean? Like, what the heck is going on there?
You know who's a real
Just
bastard
terrible.
for Philadelphia is Travis Konechny. That guy is the best player on their team, and he is a first class a hole. Like I watched him play the other day, and he was just causing shit all over the ice like crazy. And he is just like he scored the goal that he should have scored in that game. But oh, what a rat!
But I think his family's from Niagara, and his father may or may not have came into a really nice establishment in Niagara, and I may or may not have helped his dad in a boating area. But
Oh, interesting. I think I know what
yeah,
you're
yeah, yeah,
talking about.
yeah. We can talk about that a little bit later too, which was pretty cool. He may or may not have. Anyways, we can go there. And Philadelphia, I think Philadelphia, they were a surprise last year, and they kind of petered out right at the end. I think they finished with like 88 or 89 points, somewhere in that area, but just missed it. And Pittsburgh somehow limped in. Pittsburgh's not making it this year at all, but I think Philadelphia has a chance. Carolina,
Philly doesn't have a goalie.
Philadelphia doesn't have a goalie.
No, there's no goalie.
Yeah,
Like they're
so they need to
so
put.
against
Go
Calgary,
ahead.
they just put a chair in the net like when they were playing in Calgary.
They turn the net down backwards. They had to bang it off the back of the boards to go in. Yeah.
Yeah, the posts. That's how they scored goals, by posts.
Oh my God, that's terrible. Well, if they can get a goalie, I'm still picking that they can make it over the Washingtons of the world, the Pittsburghs of the world, Detroit's, Buffalo still hasn't made it, but I'm picking Ottawa to make it this year. I'm picking them as Toronto number one, Florida number two, and Ottawa number three with Allmark in net. They got rid of Jacob Chikrin. Apparently, nobody wants this guy. He's the best player in the world, but nobody wants him. And I like Ottawa's team, man. They got a good young up and coming team. They got Brady Tkachuk, who I looked up to see how many goals this guy scored. I thought he scored like maybe five. Dude scored like almost 30 goals last year.
Nice.
Like he is a captain that you want. Brady Tkachuk. He'll go and he'll fight anybody, everybody. Um, I think they've got a good chance, Ottawa making it. So my lineup for the East is Toronto, Florida, Ottawa, Rangers, Jersey, um, Carolina, Philadelphia, and then I have Boston sneaking in at the end.
Well, it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. And I'm with you with Ottawa. I think that you know, Ottawa's got an interesting chance this year. They've got one of my favorite players in the NHL, and Drake Batherson. I think Batherson's, he's that big power forward who can score goals, who can cause problems in front of the net, who can, kind of mix it up. I like his game. I think he can be doing a lot more. Nick Cousins is on that team, there's some depth in there. So it's not just Brady Tkachuk, that they've got Giroux and some like the veteran presence in there who knows how to win. I don't think he's won a championship, but he knows how to win.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Josh Norris on defense. They got this kid Tim Stutzel. I don't know, man. Like it's the big thing is, I will say this all year long. The biggest part of that is Linus Hallmark. The
Yes,
biggest
I
thing
agree.
is Linus Hallmark. They added a Vezina goalie to a pretty good young team who's just going to get better and better every year.
I agree. And so here, if we're talking about Linus Allmark, what was Buffalo thinking, giving up on this guy, not signing him? Did they not see that he was a Vezina winning goaltender, or did they just give up on him? I don't even know. It's almost like a rhetorical question. I'm gonna have to dig deeper and to find out why Buffalo just let him leave for nothing. You know what I
Well,
mean?
he did.
And then-
His save percentage wasn't terrible. Like in the 20, he played 34 games in 19 and 20. 34 games had a 915 save percentage, which is no different than 22 and 23. Or sorry,
So
23, 24. So 23, 24, he had a 915 save percentage. Now, he did have a 938 in 2022 and 2023. So
okay.
938 save down to 915 is a pretty significant drop off, but he's pretty consistent if you look at his career: 915, 917, 917, 938, 915, 914.
But 915, 917, that's gonna put him in the top 10. I don't know what Buffalo's thinking, man.
Well,
I
and
mean,
so he played for them. He played 5 games in his first season with a 935 save percentage. The next season, he played 37 games at a 905 save percentage. So he didn't have, I don't know. I don't know, man. I get it. Like, I get what you're saying. It's like Toronto, right? Like Toronto passing up on some of these goalies too.
yeah.
And now, like you look at Buffalo's goalie controversy, quote unquote. You got Devin Levi, who's that up and coming stud, and then you have you Uka Pekka. How do I forget how
All
you
that
say
you
that name.
say. Yes.
Yeah, UPL. That's what we're gonna call him.
You got
That
UPL in it.
But it could be a goalie controversy all year because you've got two solid goalies, and you need to get Devin Levi some reps on the ice. Like you can't have him be the backup. He's either got to start games here, or he's got to start games in the AHL.
I agree. Well, I mean, it's a good problem to have in Buffalo, and Buffalo is like an enigma, man, because their defense is just so good. How are they so bad? You know what I mean? Like they got Darlene, they got the guy with the best name in the entire NHL, and Owen Power. Oh, Power! Like, come on,
And the
that's
kid's
just
got a
scream.
future. Like look at him on
Yeah,
Team Canada. Owen Power and Mason McTavish were the reason that I watched I think it was the World Juniors last year or 2 years ago. They were
yeah, 2 years
so
ago. Yeah.
dominant, so good. Like, they were so
Oh,
great. And look, Owen Power is 22 years old. He's 6'6". He's whatever, I'm rattling off his WWE stats here. The
yeah.
guy is a big body. He's got some skill. He's got some smarts. The guy is young. Like they've got a good decor still. He's got years left.
Dude, they had Jake. They had Jake McCabe and Brandon Montour one time. They went, we don't want you guys.
That's right.
What?
Yep. Yep.
They're just giving away good defensemen. Like, something's wrong in Buffalo, man. And living where I live closer to Buffalo than I do to Toronto. But Buffalo, oh my gosh, man, they got to do something there. They got to shake that. I don't know what's going on.
They got some
But
talent there too, right? You got some talent in a guy like Tage Thompson who can score some goals, and you've got some young kids like Alex Tuck, and well, I guess say young kid, he's not that young anymore, I guess. But
yeah,
you've
Dylan
got
Cousin, yeah,
yeah, like they've got some players, man. Like they should be doing something. It's either do something or blow it all up.
yeah, they got to do something, man. They got to go all in. Like, they got to spend the money. They're not afraid to spend the money. They're not spending on the right people. You
Yeah,
know what I mean?
Dylan Cousins is a great one too. Like Dylan Cousins that's a guy that's got again, you know, if you look at I've got the capped puckpedia.com up here. Buffalo Sabres, 44% of their cap spent on forwards, 41% on their defensemen. Thank you,
oh
Rasmus
yeah,
Dahlin.
yep.
6% spent on goalies, and they've got, looks like 6.5 mil, 6.53 in cap space available. If they wanted
Okay.
to do something, they have some space to do something.
They could totally do it. See, maybe we'll have to talk. Maybe next week we can talk about the teams that aren't going to make the playoffs and why is it that we believe or what they need to do in order to do so to make, to turn the page, to turn that corner, to do the next thing that they need to do in order to make the playoffs.
Yep, sounds great.
We can do that. So one other thing I want to do, two things. One is I think I needed to talk about the Alexander Nylander update. Just so you know, he's played 2 games with the Marlies. He's got 2 goals and 1 assist. Uh, I do say that sometime during this year, this hockey season, Alexander Nylander will be playing with the Toronto Maple Leafs on a line with his brother William, centered by Domi. Max Domi is going to be the center on that line. Book it here, guys. It's going to happen. And that's
uh,
actually that's how we started this podcast. Rick and I was talking with one of my buddies, and then I was having this argument back and forth about Alexander Nylander making the team. And my one buddy said, "There's no way." I go, "Let's call Rick," and then Rick just laughed at me for 37 minutes. He laughed at me.
do you want to make this interesting at all?
Pardon?
You want to make this interesting?
Yeah, yeah. Let's do it.
There is no way, there is not a fart's chance in a windstorm that's going to happen.
But I'm telling you, I can see into the future, and I'm telling you right now, the Nylander brothers will be on a line during a regular season game this year, centered by Max Domi.
So we started this podcast by talking about the Tim Hortons app, and here's the wager. I
Okay,
will buy you something of equivalent value for all the points in my Tim Hortons account on the day that happens. So
done.
currently, I think I have 625 points or something like that in my Tim Hortons app as I'm opening it up. I've got 811 points in my Tim Hortons app right now. So whatever the point,
Okay.
I'm going to let it ride. I'm going to let my points value ride this year. And whatever the value is, if that does happen, I will send you a Tim Hortons gift card for that amount of money.
Okay.
If
I
it
like
doesn't
it.
happen at the end of the year, you have to send me a Tim Hortons gift card for the amount.
For the amount that's in yours.
That's so whatever the points bank is. So right now I have
Okay.
a free coffee worth of points or 2 free coffees worth of points. So if it's at the
Okay.
end of the year and I've got 10 free coffees worth of points, you've got to send that to me.
Done. Love it.
Yeah. All right,
Okay.
deal.
Cool. And I was going to say, because we're not going to play for my points because I have 5,200 points in my Tims.
Ooh-wee. Wow.
I know, right? There you go. That's what happens when you play this Tim Hortons app, buddy. I'm telling you. Tim Hortons, you should give us a call. If you want to sponsor us, please let us know. We have no shame talking about it.
Also, we have
I
no
get a
affiliation with Tim Hortons, so we get nothing for this. So by all means, Tim Hortons, we love your app. So where are you? Come on.
yeah, please reach out. I think it'd be awesome. All right. So one thing that I want to talk about, I want to talk about the Leaf School song. So I was talking with a lot of different people, and we were trying to come up with what would be a good goal song or what does it look like. You know, the Hall & Oates song was a good song for a while. It was recognizable, and no matter what or when it played, even if it wasn't during a Leaf game, everybody recognized it as a Leaf goal song. So it brings the fans together. You know, so we need that to happen again this year. We don't want to play any random music or it's different this week or someone else did this or whatever. The song has to be a song that could pump up the fans that are in the stands, to pump up the fans that are at home every time they score. And the song that I've come up with, and I did send an email to the artist asking for their permission. And the song is called, and we'll play it for you, a little snippet, about 18 seconds worth. It's called All I Do Is Win by DJ Khaled. And when you hear this song, please tell me that you will agree with me. And if you don't agree with me, tell me what song that you think would be a good song for the Leafs. We're open to suggestions, but I don't think there's another song on there because it talks about winning and all they do is win. It's a great song. Rick, back
So
to you, buddy. What else you got?
I'm going to counter your suggestion with a
Okay.
different song, and it's a song that is near and dear to my heart, and it takes me back to my youth, and it is for me one of the ultimate pump up songs, and it is so my favorite band of all time is Metallica, and they have this song called Fuel. And I love the thought of the team getting fired up and that goal adding fuel to the engine to score more goals. And it's a high energy song and it gets people out of their seats and it's loud and it's, you know, it, that's the song for me. That's the one you know what? Give me fuel. That's the song.
All right, buddy. So we'll have to, whenever we get all these followers following us or listening, we'll have to do a vote to see who they believe or what song they believe should be the Leafs goal song.
Well, hey, let's talk about followers. We've got an Instagram channel. It is the Hockey Huddle Podcast. We are at the _hockey_huddle_podcast. We've got a TikTok channel, and it is the _hockey_huddle_pod, the Hockey Huddle Pod. So we have got some TikTok and some Instagram channels. We're going to start posting on there. We're going to figure out how to post some of the hot takes from our pod and we'll share some of the hot quotes and projections and stuff like that on social media, but we're just getting this thing fired up. But we do currently have Instagram and TikTok. Thanks for tuning in to the Hockey Huddle and hanging out with us through all the slap shots, big hits, and highlight reel plays. Whether you're a diehard fan or just getting into the game, we appreciate you being part of our hockey family. Don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and hit us up on social media with your thoughts, questions, or hot takes. We love hearing from you. Until next time, keep your stick on the ice, your head up, and we'll catch you in the next period. Take care, everyone.